The moment I walked into the garage, something felt wrong. The sacred space that had been my sanctuary for years, where my grandfather's 1969 Ford Mustang had sat like a gleaming time capsule of memories, was empty. Pristine concrete where rubber marks and oil stains had once told stories of countless hours of restoration now stood bare and accusatory. My hands trembled as I called my mother, hoping, praying, there was some rational explanation. "Where's the Mustang?" The silence that followed was more devastating than any words could be. "We had to sell it, Alex," she finally said, her voice a mixture of guilt and defiance. The world tilted. That car wasn't just a vehicle. It was my connection to my grandfather, a man who had been my mentor, my hero. Every dent I'd hammered out, every rusted panel I'd replaced, every late-night restoration session was a love letter to his memory. He'd promised me the car when I was just 12, eyes twinkling as he showed me how to adjust a carburetor, telling me, "One day, this beauty will be yours." My father's voice crackled through the speaker in the background. "It was for your sister's college tuition. We didn't have a choice." A choice. As if my dreams were somehow less valuable than my sister's future. As if the years of work, the carefully saved money, the emotional investment meant nothing. I remembered the day my grandfather passed away. His weathered hands had gripped mine, pressing the Mustang's keys into my palm. "Take care of her," he'd whispered. I'd interpreted her as the car. Now I realized the betrayal cut deeper than metal and paint. My sister Emily had always been the golden child, straight-A student, scholarship potential, the family's great hope. And I? The automotive technician, the one who worked with his hands, whose passion was deemed less important. The Mustang represented more than transportation. It was a promise, a legacy. My grandfather's final gift, stripped away without my consent, sold like some disposable asset. Each memory rushed back. Weekends spent together in the garage, him teaching me every intricate detail of automotive mechanics, the pride in his eyes when I successfully rebuilt the transmission. Rage bubbled beneath my skin. This wasn't just about a car. This was about respect, about recognition, about the value of a dream. "How much did you get for her?" I asked, my voice dangerously calm. 15,000, my mother said. Enough to cover Emily's first-year expenses. 15,000. $15,000 for a piece of my heart, for my grandfather's legacy, for every drop of sweat, every skinned knuckle, every moment of dedication. I hung up the phone, my mind already churning. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. They might have sold my car, but they hadn't seen the last of me. Something inside me had changed, a cold, calculated resolve replacing the hurt. Revenge, I was learning, was a dish best served with precision. The weeks following the Mustang sale were a slow burn of resentment. Every family dinner became a battlefield of unspoken tensions. Emily avoided my gaze, sensing the volcanic anger simmering just beneath my calm exterior. My parents tried to normalize things, as if selling my most cherished possession was no different from changing the dinner menu. I remember the first confrontation clearly. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of day that used to be sacred, when Grandpa and I would work on cars together. Now, the silence was deafening. "We did what we had to do," my father said, not meeting my eyes. I laughed, a harsh, brittle sound that didn't resemble joy. "Did you? Did you really have to sell the one thing that meant everything to me?" My mother's defense was predictable. "Emily needs a chance at college. We're not rich, Alex. Someone had to make a sacrifice." A sacrifice? The word tasted like poison. "I've been working double shifts at the garage. I've been saving money. I could have helped her." The truth was more complicated. Emily had always been the golden child, top of her class, destined for great things. I was the practical one, the one who fixed things, who kept the family running. My dreams had always been secondary. We couldn't wait, my father said. The tuition deadline was approaching. I knew the real story. Their small business had been struggling. The economy had hit them hard. The Mustang was liquid assets, a quick solution to their financial problems. My dream was collateral damage. So my entire future, my connection to Grandpa, was just a financial transaction, I demanded. The silence that followed was more painful than any argument. Emily finally spoke up, her voice small. I didn't know they were going to sell your car, Alex. I swear. But her words rang hollow. She'd benefit from the sale. She'd get her college education on the ruins of my dream. What hurt most wasn't just the loss of the car. It was the complete disregard for my feelings, my hard work, my connection to my grandfather. Every weekend I'd spent restoring that Mustang, every penny I'd saved, every moment of love and dedication, nullified with a single signature. They thought they knew me. They thought I'd accept this. They were wrong. As I sat there, watching my family pretend everything was normal, something crystallized inside me. This wasn't just about a car anymore. This was about respect, about recognition, about showing them the true cost of their betrayal. My mind began to work, calculating, planning. If they could make a unilateral decision that destroyed my dreams, I could make decisions that would make them understand the depth of their mistake. The seed of revenge had been planted, and it was about to take root. Revenge isn't born in a moment. It's cultivated, strategically planned like a complex automotive restoration. And I was going to restore my sense of justice with the same precision I once restored my grandfather's Mustang. My first step was gathering intelligence. Working at Rodriguez's auto repair gave me access to a network that stretched far beyond simple mechanical work. People talk in repair shops. They share stories, secrets, financial troubles. And my connections ran deep. I started with my father's business first. Rodriguez Auto Repair Supply was a small family wholesaler that had been struggling for years. My father never knew how much I understood about the business's inner workings. While he saw me as just the son who worked in a garage, I'd been paying attention, learning, observing, understanding every financial nuance. Miguel, an old friend who worked as an accountant, owed me a favor. One late night over beers, I casually mentioned my need for some discreet financial investigation. Miguel's fingers danced across his laptop, pulling threads of information that would become my strategic blueprint. The first revelation was almost too perfect. My father had been hiding significant tax irregularities, small discrepancies that individually meant nothing, but collectively painted a picture of potential fraud. Not enough to be criminal, but definitely enough to damage his professional reputation. My sister Emily wasn't innocent either. Her scholarship wasn't as complete as the family believed. She had outstanding student loans and had been padding her application with fabricated extracurricular activities. One well-placed email to her university's ethics committee could unravel her carefully constructed image. My mother's real estate side business was equally vulnerable. She'd been selling properties without fully disclosing certain structural issues, technical legal territory that could result in significant professional repercussions. Each piece of information was a weapon, carefully selected and prepared. I wasn't interested in destroying my family. I wanted them to understand the pain of losing something precious. The way they'd casually discarded my dream, my connection to my grandfather. The automotive world became my chessboard. I knew how to navigate professional networks, how to plant seeds of doubt, how to make strategic moves that would create maximum impact with minimal direct intervention. My old mentor, Jack Thompson, a legendary mechanic with connections across 3 states, became an unexpected ally. Not through direct action, but through carefully orchestrated conversations. A mention here, a subtle suggestion there. Jack had a way of spreading information that seemed completely innocuous but could demolish reputations. I documented everything, every conversation, every piece of evidence, not as a weapon of immediate destruction, but as a carefully constructed narrative of betrayal. The most important lesson my grandfather ever taught me wasn't about cars, it was about patience. A perfect restoration, he'd say, takes time. You can't rush perfection. I was applying that lesson to my plan of retribution. My hands, once used to rebuild engines and restore classic cars, were now rebuilding a strategy of calculated revenge. Each movement precise, each action considered, each potential consequence evaluated. They thought selling my Mustang was the end of the story. They were wrong. This was just the beginning. Execution is an art form. And I was about to become a master painter, using my family's reputation as my canvas. The first brushstroke came through the local business association. My father had always been proud of his standing in the community, a respected small business owner, a pillar of local entrepreneurship. I knew exactly how to crack that facade. Miguel's forensic accounting revealed a pattern of financial irregularities in my father's supply business. Nothing overtly criminal, but enough to raise serious questions. I anonymously tipped off the local Chamber of Commerce, providing carefully curated documentation that suggested systemic financial mismanagement. The domino effect was immediate. Preliminary inquiries began. Contracts started to dry up. Suppliers became cautious. The whispers began. Soft at first, then growing louder. Rodriguez Auto Supply? Something's not right there. Emily's carefully constructed academic persona was my next target. Her scholarship wasn't as secure as she believed. A meticulously crafted email to the university's ethics committee, unsigned, but containing precise details about her application discrepancies, set another chain of events in motion. Her scholarship review board launched an investigation. The pressure was subtle, but devastating. Recommendations were rescinded. Funding became tentative. The golden child's future suddenly looked far less certain. My mother's real estate ventures became the third front of my strategic assault. Her side business had always been built on carefully managed appearances. I knew every property she'd sold in the past 3 years. With surgical precision, I began connecting with recent buyers, anonymously of course, subtly highlighting potential undisclosed issues. Social media became my silent weapon. Carefully created accounts, seemingly unconnected, began spreading carefully worded concerns. Nothing outright false, just strategic truths that painted a damaging picture. The local automotive community was my most potent weapon. In an industry built on reputation, whispers can be more destructive than shouting. Jack Thompson became an unwitting messenger. A casual conversation here, a raised eyebrow there. The network of mechanics and auto professionals began to view my family differently. I watched from a distance, clinical and detached. Each move calculated, each consequence anticipated. This wasn't blind rage. This was precision engineering of social destruction. The beauty of my plan was its invisibility. No direct confrontation, no obvious attack. Just a systematic dismantling of their carefully constructed facades. My grandfather's lessons about automotive restoration became my strategy of revenge. Just like restoring a classic car, I was stripping away layers, revealing the rust underneath the shiny exterior. Weeks turned into months. The pressure mounted slowly, inexorably. My family began to crack. I could see it in their increasingly desperate conversations, their hushed arguments, the way they looked at each other with growing suspicion and fear. They had no idea who was behind their mounting problems. The anonymity was part of the punishment, the not knowing, the constant uncertainty. One evening, watching from a distance as my father nervously paced the living room, I felt something I didn't expect. Not triumph, not joy, something more complex. A mixture of pain, loss, and a strange sense of justice being served. I had become the architect of their unraveling, and I was just getting started. The family gathering was supposed to be a typical Sunday dinner, but nothing about this family was typical anymore. I arrived last, watching the tension crackle through the room like static electricity. My father looked older, the lines on his face deeper, his shoulders hunched with the weight of mounting business problems. My mother's perfectly maintained appearance had begun to fray at the edges. Emily sat quietly, her once bright future now a maze of uncertainty. "We need to talk," I said, my voice cutting through the nervous silence. The room went dead still. My father tried to maintain his composure. "About what exactly?" I pulled out a folder, meticulously organized, each document a weapon more precise than any physical blow could be. "About how you destroyed my dream. About how you're now experiencing exactly what you did to me." Emily shifted uncomfortably. "Alex, whatever you're thinking, save it," I interrupted. "I know everything." One by one, I laid out the evidence. The business investigation that had cost my father 3 major contracts, the university's ongoing review of Emily's scholarship, the real estate complaints circling my mother's recent sales. "How?" my mother whispered, her face pale. "You taught me well," I said coldly. "I learned from the best. How to strategize, how to plan, how to destroy something someone loves." My father's professional reputation, built over decades, was crumbling. The auto supply business he'd worked years to establish was now under intense scrutiny. His peers, once respectful, now viewed him with suspicion. Emily's academic future hung by a thread. The scholarship she'd worked her entire life to secure was now under serious review. Her dreams of a prestigious university were evaporating like morning mist. My mother's real estate career, her pride and joy, was being systematically dismantled. Potential clients were backing away, whispers of impropriety following her like a shadow. "You sold my dream," I said quietly. "My connection to Grandpa, the one thing that meant everything to me. So I'm returning the favor." The room was suffocating with unspoken accusations. Years of family dynamics, the golden child, the overlooked son, the parents' subtle favoritism, all came crashing down in that moment. "We did what we thought was best," my father said weakly. I laughed, a sound devoid of humor. "Best for whom? Certainly not for me." Emily finally broke. Tears streamed down her face. "I never wanted this. I never asked for the car to be sold." But her words rang hollow. She had benefited. She had accepted the sacrifice without truly fighting for me. My mother reached out, a gesture of reconciliation. I stepped back. "You don't get to touch me," I said. "You lost that right when you sold my grandfather's Mustang." The weight of my revenge settled into the room. This wasn't just about a car anymore. This was about respect, about family, about the unforgivable breach of trust. I had become the instrument of their destruction. Cold, calculated, precise. Just like the mechanical restoration I'd once performed with such love, I had stripped away their carefully maintained facade, revealing the rust and damage underneath. The aftermath was nothing like I'd imagined. Revenge, I discovered, is a hollow victory. The destruction I'd carefully engineered left a void more profound than the empty space where my grandfather's Mustang once sat. Weeks passed. My family became strangers. No more Sunday dinners. No more casual conversations. We were now players in a war with no real winners. My father's business never fully recovered. The whispers that had started as subtle hints became permanent stains on his reputation. The auto supply company he'd built over decades was now just a shadow of its former self. Emily's academic dreams fractured. The Scholarship Review Board's investigation left her reputation tarnished. Graduate schools that once courted her now kept their distance. Her perfect future, the very reason they'd sold my car, had crumbled. My mother retreated into herself. The vibrant real estate agent became a ghost, her professional network disintegrating like tissue paper in rain. And me? I was empty. The garage where I'd spent countless hours with my grandfather now felt like a mausoleum of memories. The tools we'd shared, the moments we'd spent together, they seemed to mock my current existence. I'd won, but winning felt like the most profound loss. One evening, completely unexpected, I received a package. No return address. Inside was something that stopped my world. My grandfather's old toolbox, the very one he'd used during our restoration projects. Tucked inside was a letter. His handwriting, shaky but familiar, dated months before his death. To my Alex, it read, "A dream is more than metal and paint. It's about the love you put into something. Revenge will never replace what you've lost. Healing might." The words hit me like a physical blow. I realized then that I'd become exactly what I'd despised. In my quest to make my family feel my pain, I'd lost myself. The precise, loving son who could restore a classic car with patience and care had become something else entirely. My grandfather would have been disappointed. The Mustang was more than just a car. It was a symbol of connection, of love, of shared dreams. And I'd allowed its memory to poison me completely. Forgiveness, I was learning, wasn't about forgetting. It was about understanding, about recognizing that family, with all its flaws, was still family. I couldn't undo what had been done, but I could choose how I moved forward. The first step would be the hardest. Reaching out, acknowledging our shared pain, understanding that we'd all lost something precious. My grandfather's toolbox sat beside me, a reminder that some things are worth more than revenge. Some connections can't be sold, destroyed, or forgotten. Some dreams are meant to be restored,